He calls those who oppose him vermin. He talks about the blood of America as being poisoned, echoing the same exact language used in Nazi Germany. He proudly posts on social media the words that best describe his 2024 campaign, quote, revenge, quote, power, and quote, dictatorship. There's no confusion about who Trump is, what he intends to do.
That was President Biden on Friday commemorating the third anniversary of the January 6th attack on the Capitol, while also hitting Donald Trump for his hate-filled and racist rhetoric. And tomorrow, the president will echo a similar tone when he speaks at Mother Emanuel AME Church in Charleston, South Carolina. In 2015, that historic black church, one of the oldest in the South, was the scene of the state's worst mass shooting when 9 black parishioners were gunned down by a white supremacist during Bible study. Biden's campaign says the church is a setting that embodies the state of our nation at this moment, and that the president will focus his remarks on democracy and freedom. Joining me now is David Blight, professor of American history and African American studies at Yale University and the Pulitzer Prize-winning author of Frederick Douglass, Prophet of Freedom. Professor Blight, thank you very much for coming back to the Sunday Show. As you know, the president kicked off his re-election campaign in Valley Forge on Friday with a very strong speech on democracy and freedom. Do you think he was able to get that message across?
Well, he did to those of us who are truly listening to what history actually is. My own favorite line in that speech by Biden, there were many, was where he said history is the good, the bad, and the truth. That's pretty good. Mm-hmm. You know, can't prove much on that. But the trouble is he's up against, I mean, every presidential candidate, every president has fought politically with versions of history. This time you have to fight, though, a version of history that is really history as entertainment. As Biden said, Trump is trying to steal history. Not just about January 6th, but about the whole nature of American history.
Right.
And frankly, you know, you're fighting against a sort of history that is like a sugar high for Trump's followers. It's entertainment. It's a show. It doesn't matter what the truth is to most of Trump's followers. But thank God Biden actually did use the word truth and gave us a few versions of it.
Mm-hmm. Professor, ahead of speaking at Mother Emanuel AME Church tomorrow, Biden's deputy campaign manager said this. Let me read it to you. Because whether it is white supremacists descending on a historic American city of Charlottesville, the assault on our nation's capital on January 6th, or white supremacists murdering churchgoers at Mother Emanuel nearly 9 years ago, America is worried about the rise in political violence and determined to stand against it. What's the significance, Professor Blight, of linking those events?
Well, the murders at Mother Emanuel are, in a way, a bookend. They are, if you like, the beginning of the Trump era. Trump announced his presidency right after that. Mm-hmm. So much of what's happened about the movement against white supremacy, the movement against Confederate memorials, and the movement against Trumpism has a beginning with that mass murder at Mother Emanuel in June of 2015. And it is, in some ways, the sort of hideous core of what white supremacist violence can do in this country. So anytime we return to that great symbol, that church, what happened there, the legacy of Clementa Pinckney, that church's quite incredible minister, is a reminder of where our politics can go, because on that day we were reminded that we are breeding a kind of white supremacist, violent politics out in American society that has to somehow be controlled and fought.
You know, it's not lost on me the significance of Charleston. It's not just what you were just talking about in terms of the murders at Mother Emanuel. but it is there in South Carolina where the Civil War began. It is there in Charleston that was one of the biggest ports in the slave trade, during the slave trade. Talk about, real quickly, in the less than a minute that we have left, about the significance of Charleston, not only tomorrow in this speech, but in the history of this country.
It's where the Civil War began, of course, at Fort Sumter. It has always been the sort of seedbed of the Confederacy and secessionism. South Carolina was first to go. And of course, recently we've been reminded that a leader from South Carolina, Nikki Haley, can still put out twisted versions of history rooted in the traditions of the Confederate lost cause, which Trump himself has done many, many times. So yes, Charleston is and always will be that kind of symbol. However, there are other Charlestonians, as you well know. There are white progressive Charlestonians. Joe Riley, the former longtime mayor of that city, represents that. And so there are many Charlestons, but it has become and always has been a symbol of what divides and possibly what can unite this country.